Thank you so much, everyone, for joining and your interest and your time. We certainly appreciate it. Again, my name is Doug Mady. I lead the comms function here at Influ2, and we're going to be hosting a discussion today, obviously, by the slide you can see right now on the strategic advantages for B2B marketers using contact level ABM. So a few housekeeping things right at the top. Yes, this meeting will be recorded. So if you're on it right now, don't worry, you're going to get an email afterwards and you'll get a recording of the whole discussion. The deck will be available as well. If you have questions throughout the talk, please feel free to drop them into the chat, but we will be saving all Q&A to the end. So just know that if you have a question, we will get to it, but we're going to wait for the end of the discussion. So with that, I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Dmitry Lisitsky, co-founder and CEO of Influ2, and Nora Conklin, principal analyst with Forrester Research, focusing on demand and ABM. Dmitry, Nora, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So, Nora, you headed up this research, so why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, and thanks for the introduction. So I'm here to help and share some of the findings of a quantitative survey that Forrester put together. Influ2 had approached us to validate some of the things that they were seeing in the market, which were confirmed by some of the things that we at Forrester were seeing in the market, particularly that ABM has proven itself to be a successful approach. This is something that we've written about extensively and spoken about at Forrester, that ABM has proven itself more successful than traditional demand gen programs, but that people are still having challenges in realizing the full benefits of ABM or in putting it into practice. That's something we'll speak more about in a moment. The questions we wanted to see, particularly with this survey, were, did B2B marketers agree that targeting individual buyers within an account was critical? Was this something that they thought would pay off in business results? Was this something that they were having challenges with? If so, what sorts of challenges? How was it affecting their operations? These were the sorts of questions that we wanted to ask, with the observation or assumption that this was a critical element to ABM success and that it would pay off in business results to the tune of stronger sales alignment, faster deal cycles, and higher ROI. So that's a bit about kind of the framing or what shaped this survey. We received responses from 163 B2B marketing decision makers in the US, and I'll share a bit more about the firmographics and the makeup of this audience. So as we said, all from the US, this was not a global survey. 100% of our respondents were US based and in B2B marketing. The majority came from small and mid-sized businesses, although there was some representation from larger organizations of 20,000 employees or more. About 20% of respondents came from that larger organization size. And we had a good mix and representation of industries. You see the relative spread here. We did have the most representation, about 10%, coming from technology, either technology provider or technology service companies. As we said, we wanted to hear from B2B marketing decision makers. So all of our respondents came from manager titles and above. The majority, as you see, over 60% had a VP or director title, although we also had some managers and some C-level representation. The majority, 60%, said that they were either solely responsible for their ABM strategy or they were part of the team or group that shaped ABM strategy in their organizations. And again, we're talking demand and ABM here. So all of our respondents had demand and ABM responsibilities, although we did track their full set of responsibilities. So as you see, some also were responsible for digital or field or product, as an example. So before we take a look at what these respondents told us and how they thought about those questions that we posed, I wanted to share a bit more about the underlying data and the backstory in terms of how we shaped that hypothesis and wanted to know more about these questions. I mentioned the finding from the Forrester side that ABM has proven itself to be more successful, but is still posing challenges in organizations. We at Forrester field a survey on a biennial basis every 2 years about the state of ABM to see how ABMers are using ABM, how they're using technology, how they're shaping their programs, et cetera. When we did this survey in 2022, we found that 1 in 4 or 25% of respondents were found to be doing what we called in the report ABM in name only. In other words, they said, yes, I'm responsible for ABM, I'm doing ABM programs, but when we asked further questions about how they were working internally, how they were putting these programs in place, they were found not to adhere to ABM best practices. Now we fast forward to our most recent survey, which was conducted in 2024, and the number hasn't changed very drastically. It's now 1 in 5 respondents, or 20%, that are doing ABM in name only. So while that is a modest decrease, we're talking about a pretty long time horizon over a couple of years where there hasn't been a dramatic shift. So we do definitely see that while it's not the majority, there's a significant and pretty stable set of ABM practitioners that are having trouble putting the best practices of ABM into play. And that was part of the reason that we wanted to look a little bit closer and partner on this research to see what exactly were the challenges that they were facing as relates to their engagement efforts.
Now, I believe this is a photo that our marketing manager here at Influ2, Dasha, took. So, Dimitri, I think that's my cue to send it over to you and talk about this stat a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think the most important thing, that the reason why this specific slide attracted attention of our team at the Forrester Summit was the fact that 80%, more than 80% of buyers are not happy with their buyer experience, right? And think about it, is like we don't talk about consumer buyers, right? They're always unhappy and they always want to have more and have better shopping experience. But these are very rational people who are making their decision. This is their job to buy stuff, and this is not a fun job. They need to do this, and they are very rational about the decision-making process. And still, like, despite of all the effort that marketing teams put together, like creating content, trying to educate their potential prospects, customers, all this effort still makes 80% of the buyers unhappy, right? So I think there's still a lot of work to be done.
Right.
And then if you think of like coming back to our ABM perspective, actually the ABM practitioners are also unhappy, right? And like you can see that many of them complain, and the main complaint about like their programs is basically they're not seeing like enough engagement from the accounts they're trying to engage. It's 58% of them report moderate or worse ability to drive engagements, which is a very like big number.
Yeah.
And like basically our answer to this question, and I think it's kind of lays on the surface, but like if you think of ABM as a strategy, it sounds like a no-brainer at this point, right? I think most people understand that as long as you kind of very clear about or intentional about the accounts you want to go after, you have some GTM process that establishes who you want to go after, what are the companies you want to build a relationship with. It feels like, okay, there's no-brainer. You go on the market, buy some ABM tools, and execute your program. But in fact, account-based approach does not deliver on the technology level what needs to be done. Because if you think of ABM strategy implemented through traditional ABM technology, you would see that you're targeting the whole account, and sometimes we talk about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people you're targeting. And then very few people of those hundreds of thousands are actually the people you care about. So there's a very, very small group of people, and this is buying group. This is people who are actually involved in decision-making process. And you only care about this small fraction of this huge account. And frankly, like account level targeting technology does not deliver on this very core need to be able to engage very small number of people, the buying group you care about. And then again, like another slide that we really loved and took picture at the Forrester Summit was that's like we talk about 13 people out of this 150,000 people inside Microsoft who you probably care about in the previous example. So there's like very small fraction of the people, and also buying groups, as you know, like we really love Forrester vision about the buying groups, and they push this idea to the markets like, hey guys, you need to think about buying groups, not accounts. There are multiple buying groups inside the same account, and you need to be, put your strategy like in the way you execute your programs, thinking about the buying groups you care about, not the accounts. And this is a very tiny fraction of the total account audience.
Yeah. Nora, I'd love to get your take here, because Will and Forrester puts on very photogenic presentations.
Right. No, I'm glad to
Yeah.
see the real live shots here. But this is I'm glad this data point was one that stuck out to you, because it was one that stuck out to us too when we unveiled the most recent B2B buyer's journey survey results at our B2B summit earlier this year, which is where this data was presented. This is an annual survey that we conduct. It's one of the largest in the market, where we ask over 20,000 B2B buyers about a purchase they made in the past 12 months, and ask all sorts of questions about how the decision worked internally on their team, what led them to make a decision, what sorts of content and channels were they referencing, et cetera. But this data point is one where we saw a big change from year to year. In our prior buyer's journey survey in 2024, we found then that there were on average 8 buying group members within an organization and 4 buying group members outside of a purchasing organization. So external buying group members, these could be influencers or agencies or systems integrators or other people who have an influence on the decision but aren't part of the organization that's making a purchase. So as you see in 2025, that number exploded, almost doubled from 8 to 13 members inside an organization, and from 4 to 8 buying group members outside of an organization. So this is really changing the game for B2B marketing, because this is making it very clear that the lead-based approach is not going to work. It's not just about finding a certain level of engagement or activity from one individual, one buyer, and sending them down the assembly line. We have to recognize that there's multiple buyers involved in the decision, and that they all are involved in different ways. They're going to have different questions and considerations at different points of the process. So, for example, at early stages where you're building awareness or challenging the status quo, as our buyer's journey research puts it, you might be dealing with external influencers or internal champions or sponsors to try to illustrate a challenge or an opportunity or a need, versus later on when they're actively conducting research about a solution, looking at features or getting into sales conversations, you might be working more closely with the decision makers and the ratifiers, et cetera. So this is showing really that we need to get a better understanding of who's engaged and how and when, in order to effectively assist those buyers in their decisions and support the opportunity throughout the life cycle.
Cool, thanks.
So what we're seeing in our survey is that this is a challenge for a significant share of respondents. Over 40%, 42% said that they had trouble identifying and even finding who the right buyers were within the accounts that they were focused on. And it goes beyond that. Almost as many, 37%, said that they had trouble engaging the right buyers. And about a third, 31%, said that they could not support personalizing outreach at scale. So there is a challenge in a good share of organizations in identifying and targeting the right buyers. And even if they were able to do so, they have challenges in personalizing and engaging those buyers effectively. Now, those challenges could be due for a number of reasons or point in many directions. This could have to do with content development or messaging and value prop. It could have to do with resources like budget or team bandwidth and skills and competencies. But at the most foundational level, you need to have the data and the insights that are tied to an individual and the systems that allow you to act on that data and those signals in order to engage those buyers effectively. As we were saying, you need to, in order to find and engage the right individuals, the foundation or bedrock is being able to collect that data and get visibility into the buyers and have the systems in place to engage them effectively across marketing and sales. And what our survey respondents told us here is that for a significant share of them, they're not even passing that first step, that the data and technology is a challenge. Over 40%, 42% said that they had limited access to actionable contact data. So this could be that in other words, that the data relating to specific contacts is not valid or reliable, or that they're not able to act on that data on an individual level. What's more, over a third, 33%, said that they didn't have access to the technology that would support an individual level program or engagement effort. This was very surprising for me to see, since at Forrester we've done a lot of research and made the observation about not only the evolution of the technology space, but how widespread tech adoption has become in B2B organizations. But just because people are investing in technology, it doesn't necessarily follow that they're seeing the results that they expect or that they're able to put it in practice in the way that they need to. And so we're seeing again for a not small share of respondents that the technology they have is not enabling them, or that they're having trouble leveraging it in a way that would get to specific buyers within accounts. Now, these challenges are not just challenges for marketers. They are paying off or trickling down, if you will, to pipeline and revenue goals for the ultimate objectives that marketing is trying to impact. We asked our survey respondents what impact or outcomes they would expect if they remain unable to target and engage individuals. And as you see, 40% said that they would expect their pipeline growth to be stunted. Almost as many, 38%, said that they would expect there to be lost revenue. And almost as many, 37%, said that they would expect their sales conversion rates to be low. Now, this is particularly important because sales is, of course, the linchpin to pipeline and revenue, to working late stage deals and bringing them through to closed won. And so while targeting individual contacts is hampering marketing and has a projected impact on business results, it's particularly important for sellers as well. And we see in our survey that respondents are aware of this and they're feeling this in their day-to-day. We asked respondents about the challenges or the feedback that they're getting from sellers when they qualify accounts for sales attention. What's the most common point of feedback that they hear? And there was a clear winner here. The top answer, the number one response, was that sellers said they didn't know who to contact. So again, the ability to isolate individual buyers and to share information, not just about who those buyers are, but what their engagement has been, to give sales a fuller picture about who they are and also illustrate that buying group, what's the teams that they're working with, how they're connected on the opportunity at large, is really mission critical for sales to be able to accept and qualify opportunities and work them through to closed won deals. So it's having impact, again, not just on the business side, but on the alignment and trust between teams to work together towards a shared goal. Now, if we look on the flip side, what could be achieved or attained if these challenges were overcome, what was really interesting is respondents didn't just say that they would expect better revenue or pipeline performance, but they also saw wider benefits from having actionable, clear data around individual buyers and more behavioral data tied to specific individuals and buyers. The majority, almost 60%, said that they would expect a higher level of specific buyer and contact data to help improve customer retention. This, I have to say, was great for me to see, since at Forrester, something we've been really trying to bring attention to and champion in the market is the importance of looking at the full opportunity life cycle, not just thinking about pipeline and close won revenue, but looking beyond to supporting customers in their mean time to value realization, ultimately setting them up to become advocates, and of course, seeding retention and expansion opportunities. So it's great to see that this is recognized in the market, that that practitioners, that B2B marketers and ABMers see that a greater level of data and insights tied to an individual would pay off beyond pipeline and revenue into retention goals. We also saw a good share, about 50%, say that they would use this data to optimize allocation of resources. And a similar share, 47%, said that they would help them align across teams. So this is another great thing to see, the recognition that becoming more data-driven and getting more actionable data around individuals would also help their internal operations, their decisions about where to focus, where to put resources, how to structure teams, and of course, being the glue or connective tissue all across the front line, from sales to marketing to customer success, everyone that is engaging with these buyers, working off of the same understanding and being able to coordinate their efforts between each other based on what makes sense for that individual buyer, really enabling buyers to take an outside-in approach, looking at the market and their buyers to guide what they're doing and how they're focused. So again, from my perspective, sitting at Forrester, it was great to see the recognition that this level of data and insights could pay off in these ways and have greater benefit beyond just pipeline and revenue.
Well, I mean, Nora, great breakdown. I'm sure a lot of people were taking some screenshots there, hopefully, or jotting it down. So appreciate that. And I want to shift it now back to you, Dimitri, because I think there are several areas that we want to talk about where contact level can solve some of these problems. So why don't we jump in here?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I guess if we just make a step back before I dive into kind of small details or specific details of what we could be done, I think the bigger problem that you can see it like probably discussed at every major events, every major marketing gathering is how marketing and sales alignment is not perfect and how people need to work on this. And if like, funny enough, if you think about this, I think both teams always have like very big incentive to work together towards like winning accounts and delivering results. So I don't think the problem lies in their desire to work together and put together the effort. And in many cases, the technology or execution of those programs is a lacking detail that make this marketing and sales alignment perfect. And number one example of what could be solved this contact level execution is intent, right? So like intent was like, it was a big idea over the last decade, and you know, like I think every ABM program, like core of this every ABM program is like delivering high intent accounts to sales teams. But then the most common, disappointment, the most common question that marketing teams get from their sales counterparts is like, okay, we got this 10 great, high intent accounts. What should we do next? Who to call? What to say? What is the best thing we can do with this information? And frankly, with account level execution, it's you can nothing add to what already happened. And this contact level intent, obviously knowing who is engaging, who has this intent, who, like, where this intent is coming from. Like, was it search? Was it like third-party content? Was it social? Like, having all these details about who to call, what to say, what the context of this intent signal is critical to make it work, right? And then that's where you really see like jump in marketing sales alignment, because salespeople know exactly what they need to do and how to act on this intent information that marketing team provides. Number two is like, again, in many cases, marketing sales alignment starts with like, okay, let's sit together and discuss what are the top accounts we want to go after, who are this, or what are these companies, and like what is the priority for sales team to close this next year, next quarter. And then surprisingly, it's like it's not enough, because as we discussed a little earlier, there's a very tiny fraction of people inside those accounts who you care about, like 10 out of 10,000 people you care about, or 10 or 20 out of 100,000 people. And interesting enough, if you deliver your ad program on the contact level, then you basically talk to exactly the same people with who your salespeople are talking to, same prospects. And this shift, we see like huge improvement in pipeline results and conversion rates by doing so, right? So I think the missing piece, like and frankly, it's not that visible. It feels like you're doing okay by targeting the same accounts, going after the same account that your sales team cares about. You have perfect marketing sales alignment process, but somehow you don't really feel this impact. And the reason is you're still kind of under the hood, like you're not engaging the right prospects, you're not engaging the right people, and your sales team is still calling, they're still calling people who are never heard about the company, never engaged. And this is a big problem you can address by contact level execution with your advertising programs. And then if you think of the buyer journey, we started with this idea of kind of buyers are not happy, right? Why they're not happy? And obviously, you need to build a journey they like, they love, actually. And it's kind of funny because when we launched our product, many people assumed, okay, you can personalize your ad campaigns to the individual level. Let's put the name of the person on the landing page or slap the logo on the company on the banner. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be personalized. And honestly, no, it's not what will make their experience better. Actually, it will make the experience much worse. What you want to do, though, is to build a journey where you basically take into account three important factors. One is like this person engaging? Do you have any intent information that tells you this person is engaging? So is it person in market already? Do they know anything about your company? And you already have this information if you execute the program at the contact level. Second, how is this person? What's this person's role in the buying group? Who is their persona? And you want to adjust your execution based on the persona you're engaging. And obviously, there's no one fit all. Like different personas need different approach and different content. And finally, what sales process is like? Where's the buying group in their journey to? Is it like a sales conversation happening, or is it just completely fresh, cold start? All these factors are very important, and you need to design this buyer journey that needs to be executed at the contact level. It's impossible to provide this experience if you run your programs on the account level. And finally, I think what struck me is the fact that 47% of respondents talked about, and this is the biggest number we got, like there are like other factors, they talked about measuring their success in terms of email opens, like content downloads, webinar attendance. And I think these are nice leading indicators that sometimes you can use it to prove something's happening, your program works. But ultimately, for the marketing leader to have the voice in the boardroom and to make an impact, you really need to think about how much this program helps me to drive sales pipeline and actually drive business. And it's impossible to get this information without contact level data, right? So you need to have this high resolution data to be able to say, okay, here's the first intent signal we got, here's the first engagement we got, and here's how it turned into meeting booked. And this meeting book led to an opportunity won 6 months after, right? So you really want to have this high detailed information to be able to even talk anything about your ROI or revenue impact.
Yeah, sure.
So to wrap up, we see that engaging individuals is key to ABM success. ABM is all about leveraging insights around accounts to illustrate the opportunities within those accounts. And we know there are multiple buyers connected to those opportunities. And so frontline teams, marketing and sales need to understand who those individual buyers are and be able to engage them over time appropriately throughout the life cycle of an opportunity. And again, it's not just us at Forrester saying this to the market. Our respondents are recognizing that this is true and that this is an important piece. Almost 3/4, 72% of respondents to this survey said that the ability to target individual buyers and contacts to identify and engage them would be a key differentiator and difference maker in ABM success.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I think we should open it up to some questions. And I want to say thank you, Nora and Dimitri. It's great. And I'll pause on the screen for a second. That QR code will take you to a page where you can download the report in full. And I do know some questions came in, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'll leave it up for another 10 seconds or so as we get into some questions. I have one, and then I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'll just open it up here. So what metrics matter most when proving the ROI, return on investment, of contact level ABM to leadership? Nora, you want to jump on that one first, and then Dimitri maybe follow on?
Sure. Yeah. What we recommend in our research on B2B measurement is looking at a level of what we call marketing sufficiency. So it's an engagement level, but specific to not only the individual buyer, but also getting the optimal level of engagement. In other words, it's not an exponential, like if we engage them 100 times, we're going to get 100 times more meetings or pipeline size or whatever it might be. So what that looks like, as an example, I spoke with a practitioner that was in charge of ABM at a large systems integrator. They were working on large deal support, like a few strategic accounts, large deal sizes, but also continuing in the post-sale, so that their ABM teams were involved in onboarding and in kind of white glove customer support to these accounts and opportunities. And what they found was when they engaged 3 executives within those accounts, their retention rate went up almost 20%. I think it was 17%. So that's kind of the ideal state of what we recommend, that you're looking at not only the level of engagement with the buyers connected to opportunities, but also getting a sense of what's kind of our optimal level of engagement by which you can then guide your content development efforts, budget, investments, et cetera.
Yeah, great. Dimitri, anything you want to add here? And again, the question was around the metrics when proving ROI of contact level ABM to leadership.
Yeah. I think the best words that leadership wants to hear from any marketer is like revenue, right? And basically that's how we think about it too. Ultimately, you want to report how much revenue you managed to bring on the table with your program. The challenge is it's very hard to do, right? So I think it's very hard to answer this question, and sometimes we can. We have especially for bigger customers where we have enough data, enough history of the data. It's we can actually have, okay, this program actually brought you this amount of extra revenue over the last 2 years, right? The challenge with like B2B sales is it takes time, right? So like to measure revenue impact with 12-month sales cycle, it takes at least 12 months, right? So basically probably plus some engagement cycle. So it's literally like we talk about this kind of, ultimate results being tracked over the period of couple of years. But then like there is very clear trajectory to this number, right? So I think there's like pipeline booked, and pipeline booked you can measure within like the lift in pipeline booked you can measure within like 3 4 months 6 months time frame, right? So much faster. And this is like already provides huge answer to the question, okay, how this program was like help us to get potentially new customers, right? So like the fact that as a result of your program you managed to bring some extra new meetings booked, new pipeline opportunities opened is a huge like result that no one should be shy about. And again, like ideally you want to answer, okay, how much like lift you get because you ran this program. And again, like with abundance of data, it's totally possible to do. And then obviously, yes, I think some people talk about, okay, these are all vanity metrics, like you don't trust webinar attendance, you don't trust, like content downloads, that kind of stuff. I think these are leading indicators. You don't want to ignore that, right? You just don't want to end with this, right? So these are leading indicators to revenue, but obviously this is not revenue, not what your leadership team asks for. But yes, as a marketing team, you kind of connect those data points to ultimately how much pipeline revenue we are getting. So this is kind of right hierarchy of KPIs that we think about.
Cool. Thank you. I want to, there's one question here about behavioral insights. Dima, maybe you jump on this one first, and Nora, if you want to tag on, that would be great. When you mention deeper behavioral insights on individual buyers, what does that actually look like day to day?
Well, that's where, frankly, we're still learning, and I think everyone's learning because with the recent addition of LLM layer into our product, now we can extract this context sometimes like it can be very unexpected, right? So just to give an example, I recently saw a buying group where like we saw a leader who was searching for a specific term, and we managed to capture the signal, and then their buying group member also kind of actually vice versa. Actually, we saw a leader who clicked on our ad, and then we captured the search of the buying group member who searched for our product. So, and clearly there was some conversation within this buying group that led to the search. So this kind of things, it's like, I think at this point it's impossible to capture all possible combinations of different contexts and information that you can get. I mean, like search intent is important, social intent is very important, third-party content is very important, content intent is very important, and engagement data is very it's a very important element of this. But if you combine those together, you can get like millions of different combinations of what that could mean for different buying groups. And then if you just look at the buying group and try to make sense of what's going on here, why this person is engaging suddenly those they never engaged before, and why this another person is searching for a product or reading articles that, again, like we capture this information. The combination of those signals provide very interesting context of what's going on in this buying group. And again, like LLM might help you understand how those signals are connected to each other and what it might mean. In some cases, you need to, as a human, to think about it and provide and use your own expertise to make sense of all those signals. But the combination of signals at this point became so interesting that you can actually make very educated guess about what's going on in the company you never spoke with before, and actually trying to build a relation with.
Thank you. Nora, anything to add on that? The behavioral?
Yeah, no, the only thing I would kind of highlight from what you were saying, Dimitri, is that it is much more of like detective work and kind of a team sport as well with this sort of approach where you have marketers and sellers, and BDRs, SDRs, or revenue development reps are also a key part of this, where as you're starting to see signals, some might be connected to individuals, some might be anonymous. You're interpreting that data to try to find more information about, so the goal, even though the ultimate goal is, yes, we want to have a high level of engagement and confirm these particular buyers to be able to qualify an opportunity or pass it through for sales, for a conversation. More information is really the goal, especially at earlier stages. Can we confirm if we see engagement from one person, who is on their team, what are the leadership connections or the structure of the teams that they're working with. So you're using some kind of inferences and hypothesis that you're looking to validate. So that's why I say kind of detective work. I think it's marketers and sellers and revenue development teams, and sometimes customer success too, if you're looking at retention and expansion opportunities, kind of working together to not only share insights, but kind of validate, go on kind of different points of inquiry, if you will, to say, is this the right person, or are they connected? Is this the one who's engaging? So more signals help, but also more internal collaboration helps too.
Cool. I think we have time for two more that I'm looking at here. Maybe just one here. How do you measure, Nora, I'm looking right at you, so let's start with you and go over to Dimitri. How do you measure ROI in an ABM program?
Yeah, I think in terms of like your specific ABM program, it depends on the goal. If you're looking at, expanding or retaining existing customers, if you're looking at seeding demand for new opportunities, the benchmarks, especially you mentioned this a moment ago too, Dimitri, like looking at setting the time horizon appropriately, right? If we're not expecting closed won revenue for, a year or more, depending on your sales cycle, what are the leading indicators of success? Partly depends on where you start from. So for example, if you've got an expansion opportunity that you're looking to maybe sell more to an existing customer, or sell an additional feature, to something that they already have. So you have some level of engagement with those buyers, but you're looking to position a different offering. So it's not just about engaging them and keeping them engaged, but having them learn more about this particular offering and connect in different ways. Contrasting that with, say, you're trying to expand, this account is a client of yours, but you're trying to sell this product to a totally new team, one that you've never had contact with before, and they don't work directly with the group that you're working with, right? In that case, you might be starting really from scratch. Your first step is to start to see, are they doing research? Are they starting to learn more about this space before they even start to connect directly with us and learn more about our offering and what we do in the space? So in terms of like your specific ABM program, it sort of depends on your starting point, what exactly you're going to look for as leading indicators of success. For ROI specifically, what we recommend, and Dimitri, you touched on this earlier too, is looking at marketing lift. So not just what was the overall success rate, right? The size of the deal or the success rate of deals that were closed won, but looking at when we have that level of marketing sufficiency, right? That optimal level of engagement with marketing, we saw the performance increase by a certain percentage. It's amazing how much I hear, even from those that are just starting with ABM, like, how do we know that ABM made the difference, right? That these opportunities wouldn't have closed anyway, and so isolating to marketing lift really tells that story, that the ABM focus from marketing is contributing an additional factor.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100% agree with this. I think the challenge is ROI, and I think it's kind of somehow it became a fashion to talk about like, hey, this program provided 10x ROI, whatever. I think like throwing these numbers make me feel uncomfortable, because I have also like a lot of education around like corporate finance, and like we talk about return on investment, right? This is a corporate finance topic. And I think the challenge with this is, like, how do you define investment? How do you define return? And frankly, if you can stop at revenue lift and marketing metrics lift or sales metrics lift, this is great. I think this is the best metric where you don't have a lot of challenging questions associated with the topic, because like the definition of value and return is very unclear for marketing programs. And I can give you a very simple example where you still want to think about ROI. For example, imagine you run a program and you invested, like, say, 200K in this program, and you see increase in conversion rates that leads you to, say, 200K increase in revenue, right? Which is the same number. And that sounds bad, right? It's like, okay, like it's like zero, like it's one-time ROI. It's like we don't see any return. We basically wasted our money because the amount of increase we received is the same as basically the amount we invested. Actually, it is not, because in many cases, it really depends on the business situation. But if you think of like broader business context, it could be the case that this 200K in revenue drives your valuation of the company with like 10x multiple by 2 million, right? And then you basically have 10x ROI now, and not 1x ROI. So really depends on the business context, and it's way beyond the very narrow kind of revenue terms that you think about. So in some cases, this kind of program would still make sense, right? And if you think of companies from consumer businesses where they, like companies like Uber or WeWork, they really invested they really burned a lot of, like billions of cash to achieve the market positions they're in right now. But now it's like very established market position that basically provides us return after 3, 4, 5 years of their investment. So like in the broader terms, this investment paid off, while in short term, everyone criticized them for the bad unit economics and that kind of stuff. So again, like ROI really needs, like everyone needs to be very careful when you throw this number, because it's kind of very easily can be challenged by different perspectives. And frankly, I always try to limit the conversation to revenue, which is like much more tangible, measurable, and clear. But yeah, in some cases, you might still want to think about ROI because you need to understand the broader business context of this investment.
Great, thank you. And I was hoping someone was going to ask what you're going to be for Halloween tomorrow, but since they didn't, I'm going to end it there. Thank you, Nora. Thank you, Dimitri. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your interest. Again, this is recorded. It'll be sent to you if you joined. You can get access to this deck as well. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.